There, welcome to this video on atoms, elements and compounds. This is video number 1 of that topic, and this is on elements, compounds and mixtures, as you can see there. Alright, so we're going to define these terms. These videos, ideally I want them to be under 6 minutes long, so we've got to rush a little bit. Alright, I think the most important thing we've got to ask ourselves first of all is, what do we mean? What is a particle? Okay, because we use this term a lot in chemistry, and very simply it is a very small bit of matter. Very small. We can't see them. Very small bits of matter. You can talk about a dust particle, but a dust particle contains trillions of atoms, so it's much smaller. The particles are much smaller than a dust particle. All right, so it's a very small bit of matter. All right, now in chemistry we have the word particle, and generally we split it up into 3. Anytime we say particle, we could mean one of these things. We could be talking about an atom, we could be talking about a molecule, or we could be talking about an ion. Okay, now what's an atom? An atom, now this thing here, this is the smallest particle you can get of an element. It's the smallest particle you can get of an element. Now, there are smaller particles like neutrons and protons and stuff, but it's not an element then, all right? A proton isn't any particular element, but a hydrogen atom is a hydrogen atom. It's the smallest particle that we can have of an element. That's the smallest thing, is an atom. What's a molecule? Well, a molecule is one or more atoms joined together. Okay, it's still very tiny, all right, but it's one or more atoms joined together. So an example of an atom would be an oxygen atom. There's an oxygen atom. An example of a molecule would be an oxygen atom bonded to 2 hydrogen atoms. And there you go, that's a water molecule. So molecules are more complex than atoms. They're a collection of atoms. Atom is the brick. A molecule is a building, if you like, and the atoms join together. Well, what's an ion then? An ion is a bit more complicated. It is an atom, or a group of atoms, or let me do it in a different color. It is an atom, or it could be a group of atoms with an electric charge. Okay, so that's what we mean by an ion. Now, what's an ion then? Well, sodium, there's a sodium atom. Now, if we take an electron away from a sodium atom, it becomes positive, and this guy now is known as a sodium ion. Okay, all right, and these are used in bonding as well. So when we talk about particles, we talk about atoms, molecules, or ions. Okay, and that's a very simple definition of them all. An atom is the smallest part of an element. Molecule is a collection of atoms, and an ion is an atom or a group of atoms that has an electric charge. I've only done an atom there that's got an electric charge, but you can think of, I don't know what if you'd know about this, but there's something like a sulfate. This is a sulfate ion. Okay, now this is a bit complicated at the moment for you, but that would be a group of atoms with an electric charge. That's a sulfate ion. And when sodium ions are connected to sulfate ions, you get the compound sodium sulfate. Okay, right, so that's a very basic definition of particles. And from that, we're going to define now what we mean by an element, what we mean by a mixture, and what we mean by a compound. So we're going to move this up. So first of all, obviously, we're going to look at what do we mean by an element. Now, an element contains only one type of atom. It's the most simplest thing we can get. An element contains only one type of atom. Okay. Now, how many types of atoms are there? There are about 100. There's a bit more these days, but there's about 100 types of atoms. There's not that many, is there really? 100 types of atoms, and in their various configurations, they make up everything. Okay, so there's about 100 types of atoms, all right, and therefore, if there's about 100 types of atoms, there must be the same number, 100 types of elements, because each atom is an element. Yeah. So there's 100 types of atoms. So there's 100 types of elements. All right. So let's have a look at a solid element. Well, let's pick this one. There's a solid. I've drawn it how you would draw a solid. Okay, and this, for example, I'm going to use sodium again. These are sodium atoms next to each other. Okay, how many types of atoms are present? There's one type of atom. Okay, therefore this guy must be an element. Okay, is it pure? Yes, it is pure because it only contains one type of thing. Okay, so that's a solid element. Now I'm running out very quickly about my 6 minutes, but I think I'll go to 8 minutes on this particular video because there's quite a lot to explain. So let me let the alarm go off first. There you go, there's the alarm. But I'll continue for a little bit. I'll just do elements and then I'll quit after elements. All right, that's a solid element. Well, what is there a liquid element? Do we have any liquid elements? Well, we do. We do have a liquid element. This one I've got to put into a beaker. I don't want it running all over the computer screen. So there we are. Now, this liquid element is composed of molecules. Okay, I'll explain what that means in a minute. Okay, as you can see. Now, there you go. There's the surface of the liquid. Now, what does this thing mean? Well, it's not an atom, is it? There's two atoms stuck together. This is one atom, and this is another atom. This is another atom, this is another one atom. So this thing, two atoms connected together like this thing is known as a molecule. Okay. Now, how many atoms are in this molecule? Well, there's two. So this is known as a diatomic molecule. All right, and there you go. There's two atoms in this molecule. It is a diatomic molecule, two atoms in the molecule. All right, now let's have a look at what I've drawn a little bit more closely. Right, there's one atom, and there's the other. The whole thing constitutes a molecule. And what I'm pretending this is a bromine atom connected to another bromine atom. Okay, so this is described as a bromine molecule. Two atoms joined together. How would we represent this without drawing it? We'd represent it like this, Br2. Okay, now there's a couple of numbers there I want you to look at. There's a number in front of the Br, and there's a 1 in there. We don't write the 1, but there is a 1 there. And there's a number down there. Whoops, that's disappeared, doesn't it? Let me try and redraw that number in there. Okay, Br2. Now this number here, the number in front of the molecule here, this tells us the number of molecules we have. So there's one molecule. But how many atoms are in the molecule? Well, this tells us the number of bromine atoms in the molecule. Okay, so how would we say all this? This thing here, is one bromine molecule, and one bromine molecule is composed of two bromine atoms. And because of that, we call it a diatomic molecule. Okay, so this is a liquid element. Why is it an element? Well, it's an element because even though it contains molecules, the molecules themselves only contain one type of atom. Okay, so this is a liquid element, and the way we'd show this is Br2L for liquid. So this is bromine liquid. The first one would be NaS for sodium solid. All right, so that's a solid element, sodium, a liquid element with bromine. Let's do a gaseous element now. This is the most simple, as it were. All right, let's write this down. What would a nice gaseous element be? Well, obviously it can contain one type of atom. So let's try and draw a nice box to keep the atoms in. Okay, now inside the box, I just got these simple atoms. Okay, now what are they? Well, I'm going to pretend they're neon atoms. All right, and this is a gaseous element. Why is it an element? Well, there's only one type of atom present. It is gaseous, all right, but it's still an element. There's only one type of atom present, and these are neon atoms. Now, because neon doesn't stick to other neons, they go around as ones. So when we represent neon, we just write any. We don't write any two because they don't stick together. So these things are known as mon. We call it monatomic. So neon is monatomic. And in fact, all of the noble gases are monatomic. They all go around as ones. Okay, so there you go. That's elements. Now I'll stop the video now because it's gone on way too long, and I'll do compounds and mixtures in the next video.